Hey everybody, welcome to Limits of Power, Chapter 1, Section 3, Part Dos. Alright, so here we go. We left off Operation Desert Storm. In January 1993, President Bill Clinton inherited this situation. To his credit, among recent presidents, Clinton managed at least on occasion to balance the federal budget. With his enthusiasm for globalization, however, the 42nd president exacerbated, aka made worse, the underlying contradictions of the American economy. Highlight this. Oil imports increased by more than 50% during the Clinton era, aka the oil we're bringing in that is foreign to the country. The trade imbalance nearly quadrupled, all right, and gross federal debt climbed by nearly $1.5 trillion. Stop there. During the GoGo.com years, however, few Americans attended to such matters. In the Persian Gulf, Clinton's efforts to shore up U.S. hegemony took the form of a dual containment policy targeting both Iran, and Iraq. With regard to Iran, containment meant further isolating the Islamic Republic diplomatically and economically in order to prevent the rebuilding of its badly depleted military forces. With regard to Saddam Hussein's Iraq, it meant much the same, including fierce UN sanctions and a program of armed harassment. Highlight this. During the first year of his administration, Clinton developed a prodigious appetite for bombing, and thanks to a humiliating Black Hawk Down, aka the movie, failure in retreat from Somalia, an equally sharp aversion to committing ground troops. Stop there. Nowhere did Clinton's infatuation with air power find greater application than in Iraq, which he periodically pummeled with precision-guided bombs and cruise missiles. And in fact, the ceasefire that terminated Operation Desert Storm in February 1991 did not end the Persian Gulf War. After a brief pause, hostilities resumed. Over time, they intensified, with the United States conducting punitive airstrikes at will. And there we go. Although when it came to expanding the lives of American soldiers, Clinton proved to be circumspect. He expended the ordnance with abandon, ordnance being bombs and all that stuff. During the course of his presidency, the Navy and Air Force conducted tens of thousands of sorties into Iraqi airspace, dropped thousands of bombs, and launched hundreds of cruise missiles at $1 million apiece. Anyway, apart from turning various Iraqi military and government facilities into rubble, this cascade of pricey munitions had negligible impact. With American forces suffering not a single casualty, few Americans paid attention to what the ordnance cost or where it landed. After all, whatever the number of bombs dropped, more were always available in a seemingly inexhaustible supply. Despite these exertions, many in Washington, Republicans and Democrats, politicians and pundits, worked themselves into a frenzy over the fact that Saddam Hussein had managed to survive when the world's only superpower now wished him gone. To fevered minds, Saddam's defiance made him an existential threat, his mere survival an unendurable insult. In 1998, the anti-Saddam lobby engineered passage through Congress of the Iraq Liberation Act, declaring it the policy of the United States to seek to remove Saddam Hussein's regime from power in Iraq and to replace it with a democratic government. The legislation passed unanimously in the Senate and by a 360 to 38 majority in the House, authorized the princely sum of $100 million be dedicated to that objective. On October 31st, President Clinton duly signed the act into law and issued a statement embracing the cause of freedom for all Iraqis. I categorically reject arguments that this is unattainable due to Iraq's history or its ethnic or sectarian makeup, the president said. Yet it will be. It will be because of that, because of that ethnic difference and religious difference, anyway. The president said, Iraqis deserve and desire freedom like everyone else. Voice cracked. Only 41. All right. All of this, both the gratuitous air war and the preposterously frivolous legislation, amounted to a theater. Reality on the ground was another matter. Highlight this. A crushing sanctions regime authorized by the UN but imposed by the United States and its allies complicated Saddam's life and limited the funds available from Iraqi oil, but primarily had the effect of making the wretched existence of an average Iraqi more wretched still. A 1996 UNICEF report estimated that up to 500,000 Iraqi children had died as a result of the sanctions. All right, time out. Because this is one of my biggest pet peeves. I think I talked about this way back in August, and I'm going to buckle in because I'm going to do it again. Sanctions. I don't care who the president is, what the political party. Nowadays, presidents in general love this idea of sanctions. Let me tell you something, everybody. Sanctions are some of the most horrific things that the United States can do to a nation. All right? Now, presidents love sanctions because it makes us look super hardcore, all right, in standing up to the policy of a country we don't like Iran or North Korea or Cuba, all right? All right? Or Venezuela, okay? But it doesn't cost any American lives because it's just economic sanctions. Well, when you put a sanction on a country, everybody, you're limiting the amount of money, manufactured goods, medical supplies, food that can't go into that country. So you know who you end up hurting? Old people and kids. And thousands upon thousands of them die. And we just sit here. And we're like, well, okay. Iran, they gotta be super bad, so I guess their kids deserve to die. What? Right? Don't ever fall for the sanction thing, everybody. Okay? The idea is that, like, the conditions get so bad in that country that the people will revolt against the people that are leading that country. No. Because they have no weapons. They're all old with no access to medicine. Or they're all children with no access to medicine or food. Which means they are not exactly number one go-to for a armed revolt to overthrow a regime. And no. Sanctions are the biggest pile of bullcrap ever. And we use them all the time. And where Americans are just like, oh, well, do I still get my steak? Do I still get my gas? Then I don't care. And that's a problem. Okay? Keep that in mind. Okay. With that said, sanctions, bad. All right? Asked to comment about the 500,000 dead Iraqi children. Asked to comment, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Madeleine Albright, did not even question the figure. Instead, she replied, I think that this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it. No doubt Albright regretted her obtuse remark. Yet, it captured something essential about U.S. policy in the Persian Gulf at the time when confidence in American power had reached its acme. In effect, the United States had forgotten a partnership with Saddam in imposing massive suffering on the Iraqi people. Yet as long as Americans at home were experiencing a decade of plenty, during the Clinton era, consumers enjoyed low gas prices and gorged themselves on cheap American Asian imports, and the price that others might be paying didn't much matter. Bill Clinton's Iraq policy was both strategically misguided and morally defensible. As ill-advised as John Kennedy's campaign of subversion and sabotage directed against Cuba in the 1960s, as reprehensible as Nixon's illegal bombing of Laos and Cambodia in the late 60s and 70s, yet unlike those actions, which occurred in secret, U.S. policy toward Iraq in the 90s unfolded in full view of the American people. To say that the policy commanded enthusiastic popular support would be to grossly overstate the case, yet few Americans strenuously objected to the bombing, to the congressional posturing, or, to the brutal sanctions. Highlight this. Paying next to no attention, the great majority quietly acquiesced and thus became complicit. So what he's saying is that no one was like, yes! Sanctions, killing Iraqi children, hooray! Eagles on fire with American flag, yeah! But we weren't like, maybe we should start doing that. We were just kind of like, And because we were like, we let it happen. And therefore we are complicit in how it had been and how bad it was. So with that said, hey, thanks for watching. I will see you guys soon. And that will be this week's assignment. All right? Love ya. See ya.